Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we are here on an unusual day for cyclocross, a Tuesday, but we are going to discuss the Hexiacross in Gullegem, and I'm doing that with Issam.
Hey everybody.
Hexiacross is one of only 3 crosses this season that is not part of a classification or a group of crosses like the Hexiacross. Funny story how it got created actually. There were a couple of friends and they were drinking beers at one night. They were already organized like a local crit on the road in Gullegem. And they thought, well, we should actually organize a cyclocross race. So in fact they also did. And in their second year already they attracted 10,000 spectators there, which is a lot, especially for cyclocross races in the south of Belgium. So yeah, this year, unfortunately, no 10,000 spectators, not a single one actually, due to the COVID measures, but there was still a race, so we need to applaud these organizers for organizing in these tough times, and Issam will tell us what happened in the race there.
Yeah, well, in the men's race, we knew from the start that there was one guy to look at, and that was Tom Pidcock, the one that was in shape, the one that was able to beat Van Aert, the only one that was actually able to beat Van Aert when Van Aert was there. And yeah, basically from the start we saw Anton Ferdinande and a couple of other guys that were starting quite well. But with the nature of this parkour, the stronger guys came to the front, and we saw Pidcock that was there, and also with Quinten Hermans. Later on, Felipe Orts was also able to stay within these guys, and we had basically 3 guys that were pushing the pace at the front. Pidcock was a little bit stronger, but Hermans then had the thing that Pidcock had a puncture, so he could get away, was able to get a small gap. Pidcock recovered quite well from that puncture, then put Hermans under pressure, and then was able to manage a gap of 10-15 seconds on Hermans. But from behind, when Felipe Orts was still in 3rd place, there was another under-23 guy that came to the front, and that was Joran Wyseure, who then overtakes Orts for position 3 and then closes in on Hermans. And in the last lap, Hermans is not able to defend from Wyseure or lets him by. That's up to for people to discuss. And then is able to get the 2nd place. So in the end, Pidcock wins, the main favorite of the race. Joran Wyseure gets the 2nd place, and 3rd for Quinten Hermans.
Maybe not the most special race here in Gullegem. The parkour doesn't really have any standout features. It's quite technical and today quite muddy. And as you already said, Tom Pidcock was the big favorite, and this win, it doesn't surprise at all. Puncture couldn't stop him today. He didn't even look to need to go that deep, just looked in control of the race, not wasting any unnecessary energy with the race of tomorrow in Herentals in the back of his head. Very mature ride once again, and I mean, we can't really be surprised, and I don't think there's a lot we can say about it even.
No, not really. I mean, he did what he had to do. He was the favorite when asked before the race, who are you, who is your main contender? He had to think about it for a couple of seconds, and then realized that Hermans was also starting. But, with the field that was today, obviously no Van Aert, but also no Iserbyt or Aerts. It was for Pidcock a little bit easier, and he was just very strong. And I would assume that in the last two laps he was not really pushing anymore. He was just maintaining the gap, making sure that he would finish well, not have any mistakes made or something, no crashes, and then focus on the race that's coming in Herentals.
Behind him there was a bigger surprise, Joran Wyseure ending 2nd after a slow start moving forward. First of all, do you think that he earned that 2nd place, or do you think that he got that 2nd place gifted by his teammate and team captain Quinten Hermans?
From what it looked to me, it was not the most clear gesture that Hermans has made, but he let him by quite easily on a section which is not really used for overtaking. It was almost, you could also see Wyseure a bit like doubting if he was actually able to pass him or not, because it's not a usual place to let somebody by. But I think it was a nice gesture, even if he doesn't. I don't think Hermans really wants to make a big show out of this. I guess he felt that for him 2nd place will not make the biggest of differences, and he would still finish on the podium, and then give a guy that's having a very solid season, to be honest. Some ups and downs, obviously, with some under 23 races which didn't really go his way, but overall having some good results. And for him, it's obviously a bigger difference, second or third. So I think I think Hermans wanted just to give a nice gesture, but didn't want to, show it too much.
I think that would be too good acting for Quinten Hermans if he really gave that position. I mean, he was struggling, in my opinion, in the second part of the race. In the beginning, he was able to keep up with Pidcock. Pidcock then not definitely going at his absolute maximum. When Pidcock accelerated, Hermans had a puncture. That certainly didn't help, and I feel like after that puncture, the head of Quinten Hermans went down a bit. He knew he couldn't catch Pidcock because when Pidcock had a puncture, Hermans was giving this everything, but Pidcock easily closed that gap. And then Hermans kept on doing a bit of work. Team manager or coach, I must say, Geert Wellens, not that happy about that. He said that he would prefer Hermans to sit in with Pidcock, but that didn't happen. Hermans then having a puncture, and from then on, I don't know, the gaps were never that big, but I feel like after that for Hermans, something snapped. He came here to win, I think, and then when that didn't happen, he fell back because, after that, I mean, when Wyseure passed him, he got dropped, and he was even significantly in trouble that Philippe Orts almost teamed past him. Orts doing all or nothing in the last muddy section, and eventually Hermans did have a reaction to that, but then I think that I don't think it was a matter of being empty, but I think it was more a matter of something snapped mentally, that he wasn't able to fully give it head to head with Wyseure. But I don't think he would have wanted Wyseure to end in front of him. That's just how I feel about it. But for Wyseure, this is an important second place because he's still competing for a spot at the World Championships, under 23 selection, that is. Where they said this season he's had quite some okay results, but I think if he keeps this up, he can count on a selection. Who do you think are his main opponents for that selection, Issam?
I think for sure for the ones that are gonna be for that under 23 selection in Belgium, they have a few, but I think normally Van de Putte is one guy definitely to mention. Nice having a strong race in Baal, 2 wins in a row for him. I guess that he's trying to his season was not the most consistent one, but now he's definitely someone to watch out for. So you cannot really get around him. Emil Verstringen having a very good last season. This season not really the most noticeable under 23 rider, but still having some decent results. Ferdinand, who was today also quite okay. And then I think you have to look maybe to Wyseure. Jente Michels is having some okay results, and then maybe also in Gerben Kuipers. But I think that the first 7 that I mentioned, those are the ones that are going to be selected, and then from there you have to, we can always get some surprises in the Belgium camp, but I don't think that's going to be happening this time.
No, unless something crazy happens in the next coming races, that somebody really makes a big step forwards and then starts getting in those results, then there can still be a change, but I don't expect that. I think indeed those 7 names that you mentioned will be the ones going to Fayetteville. Of course, favourites are going to be Ron Haar. Recent weeks, Nice has been living up to his expectations. Earlier this season, Van de Putte was very strong. Jente Michels has been strong in the last couple of weeks. Ferdinand very consistent. Now, of course, Wyseure getting a podium here, and then the rest will be filled up with Wyseure, Ferdinand de Kuipers or Belmans, unless we get a surprise. So that's definitely something that's going to be interesting. I look forward to the under 23 race. And Wyseure is definitely putting his name on the list of potential outsiders with a performance like this, because Fayetteville is also a heavy parcours where the start will not be as important as on most other courses. Let's look at our entire top 10 then. We had that win of Pidcock ahead of Wyseure, Hermans, Orts in 4th, just missing out on that podium, but still ahead of Tom Meeuwse, Tim Merlier and Niels van der Putte. The last 3 places in the top 10 go to Landerlooks ahead of a duo of Alpes in Phoenix, Gianni Vermeers and David van der Poel. First of all, let's talk about Felipe Orts, who ended just shy of the podium. Strong ride by the Spanish champion.
Man, it's a shame that he wasn't able to get on the podium because, he fought for that. He was, I think for the majority of the race, he was on that 3rd spot. Then Wyseure came very strong from behind, overtook him, and then, it was for him. He tried to keep that gap close. Was able to do that in a way. It was still a very decent gap. And in the last lap, he had an all or nothing, like you said, and he came. He could touch Quinten Hermans, but then that was all he had, and that's all she wrote, and he couldn't really do anything after that. The finish was just a bit too far away at that point, and he managed to get third place. But I think he should be very proud of that result. It was very strong from him, and yeah, let's hope that he can do a couple more of those races, because it was really good from him.
Yeah, definitely think that was a good race by him. Shame to see him miss the podium. Don't think he could have done anything more. And overall, just a solid performance, and I expect he will defend his national title this weekend in Spain. If we look at the rest of the top 10, a bit disappointing performance by Niels van der Putten. His form hasn't really been there in the last couple of weeks. There's no real other explanation there, but one thing that's important to note now is we are coming to the end of a busy Christmas period. National championships are coming, and then it's about tiredness and freshness, and not all riders have the same freshness now. The Belgian, or not just the Belgian, just in general, the national championships have a very unfortunate date this year. Because how Christmas is, the Christmas period is extremely focused and basically ends with the championships, where you normally have a week of racing building up towards Christmas, then a week of racing building up to the new year, and then a week of rest before you come to the championships. This year that week of rest isn't there, so the championships are just an extension of the Christmas period, which is unusual and will create an interesting dynamic there. And not all riders have the same amount of freshness. Van der Putten has been racing a lot this season, so I don't think he will be one of the most fresh riders there. So I think that's what's playing part for him. The rest of the top 10, not really anything interesting. Outside of the top 10, only an honorable mention for Samuel Gaze, the mountain biker from New Zealand. I really enjoyed seeing him do cyclocross, and good to see him getting a decent result. It's nothing special, but still good to see that there's mountain bikers who are trying cyclocross. Let's then talk about the women's race. We can be very short about that summary because Michael Rochette had the fastest start, but in the first lap Shirin van Anrooij already took over and powered away. She would go on and claim victory here in Gullegem. Behind that, Rochette got overtaken by Backstedt. Zoe Backstedt was in second place for a while, then made a crash, and then eventually fell back into the third place again. Rochette claiming second ahead of Zoe Backstedt in third. Well, Issam, summary was short. I think there's not a lot we can say about it. I mean, everybody fell into their place, and there was nothing really to see for us.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say. I mean, unlike the men's race, it in the first lap already, it was quite clear that we had just a couple of ladies that were a little bit stronger than the rest. Rochette was able to stay a little bit with Van Anrooij, but then that also quickly ended. And if you only look to the start list, it was quite clear that Van Anrooij would be the one to look at, even though she's only 20. But she has been riding, very good results the last couple of weeks. And this is the result of if you have a little bit less competitors in a way that are a little bit on equal level. I mean, Van Anrooij was just a little bit above the rest. We still had a quite, I wouldn't say interesting battle, but there was some sort of a battle for second place with Rochette and Backstedt. But yeah, in the end, the youth lost it from the experience, and Rochette was able to get that second place, which for her is, mentally, I think, a very good step forward in a way, because that hasn't been the best of results for Rochette, and she's trying to fight a little bit back. And then for Backstedt, it was also, I think, a very good race where she could step on the podium with the elites. Only 18 years old. We have talked about her quite a lot in the couple episodes, but just from her also a very good performance. But you could just see that the last lap was just a lap too much.
Yeah, it was a very long race, almost 55 minutes for the winner, Shirin van Anrooij, coming closer towards the length that men's races have. I do know that there is a big push from not only Saying Del Carmen Alvarado, but also other riders that they want to extend the women's races to 1 hour. I personally do not see a reason why that shouldn't be possible, and this is maybe already a first indication that it's perfectly possible for them to do so. And yeah, I mean, with the rest of what you said, I can only agree. Rochette, not the greatest results lately. We've already said it. She's been pretty sick off the bike for almost an entire week if you combine the cold that she had and then the illness that she had. So unfortunate for her. Hopefully she can recover. News on that, it's her penultimate race in Europe. She will be racing in Herentals tomorrow before heading back to the other side of the ocean and preparing for the World Championships. And about Backstedt, one thing I would like to add, I think that Backstedt maybe set out a bit too fast because after that crash probably broke her rhythm a bit, but also the tiredness kicked in. So yeah, I think that's just the conclusion we have to make. I mean, just look at the gaps. Van Anrooij 1 minute and 12 seconds ahead of Rochette. Backstedt almost a minute behind that. So nothing we can really say about that except that they ended where they were supposed to end. And we can also say that about the rest of the riders in the top 10. Let's look at that. Behind Van Anrooij and Rochette and Backstedt, we find Kopecky ahead of Van der Heijden, Ribeiro, Verheestraten, Jana Dobbelare. 9th place went to Anna Kay and the 10th place went to Erika Zavetta. The gaps here today absolutely huge. I mean, only Ribeiro and Verheestraten were close together. For the rest, the gaps were more than half a minute between all the riders. Let's talk about Lotte Kopecky a bit. 4th place, rider who we know is very strong on the road. I think that she's also putting in good results here in the cyclocross races that she does, considering the lack of preparation she does. She doesn't really do any dedicated training, but she feels like this is helping and boosting her road performances.
Yeah, I mean, she was interviewed before the race, and the way she was talking about it, it's, she does it for fun. She does it for the enjoyment that she, finds in, and as well, like you said, for the preparation. And, Van der Heijden was actually closing up on her and passing her even, but I was like, well, that's quite normal in a way. Someone that, does full-time cross is going to have that experience over Kopecky, but Kopecky just a little bit stronger today and was able to bring that 4th place home. And I think, you can see that there is some, there are a lot of things that she can improve on, but that is for her not really the goal of doing these cyclocross campaigns and doing those races. She's, mainly focused on just doing it for the condition, for the shape, and making sure that she's going to be in good shape on the road.
Small look ahead then at the Belgian Championships this weekend. Do you think she can challenge with Sanne Kant or get a podium even?
There's always a possibility, but it is going to be tough. I think she just lacks a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of... I heard that the parcours is going to have some sand in it as well. I don't know how she's really in the sand, but I don't think it's going to be anything better than Kant and also Frank in a way, Alicia Frank. I think that is more the woman to look at for the Belgian Championship. I think Kopecky will be fighting maybe for the podium, but I think to challenge Kant and maybe Frank is going to be a bit difficult.
A lot will depend on the parcours. It's a new race on the Lombard side, a military domain in Middelkerke. There's quite some sand there from what I've seen, but then again, there's also people saying that there might be a lot of sand, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's for the sand specialist based on the type of sand they have there. So we'll need to wait and see. I think Kopecky has an outside shot, but I still see Sanne Kant as the big favorite. And then behind that, you have a group of riders, which includes Kopecky, who can fight for second, third, or if they have a very good day, maybe come close to the title. But I think it will be hard to beat Sanne Kant. A last name I would like to mention is the one of Anna Kay, 9th place. Bit of a disappointing result, and that's kind of the way her results have been trending the last couple of weeks. Not great. And I think that this all goes down to that collarbone fracture that she had earlier this season. I mean, she missed 2 months of racing. It also means that her ranking on the UCI ranking was bad, start positions were bad, tough conditions to make her return to racing, and it just doesn't help. 2 months without racing, it's not only bad for your rhythm in the early phase of the season, but it's also bad because she was off the bike for 6 or 7 weeks, and it's just hard. She misses a base, and ever since then, I mean, you can never really make your season work anymore unless you take a significant amount of time to return to endurance training and build that base back again. And that's a tough decision to make, especially when you come back and your results were actually fine. I mean, she won Leuven, and in Kortrijk she also got a good result. But that's then just a bit of freshness in the beginning, and then after that it's a bit more struggling. So I think that's the story for the season of Anna Kay. It's nothing that we should worry about on the long term, but let's hope that things improve for her. And of course, she does still have a chance of winning the national title, because the last couple of weeks she was the best Brit. I mean, today she does get beaten by Backstedt, but the last couple of weeks she was comfortably ahead of Backstedt. So let's wait and see. Hopefully an interesting battle at the national championships. However, first tomorrow, Herentals. Unfortunately, we have bad news about Mathieu van der Poel there. Issam will tell us what's up with him.
Yeah, it seems that Van der Poel is not going to be starting. He wasn't on the start list at Herentals, and there were these doubts that he, might be added later on. But you've heard that he's not going to start in Herentals. There is still not really some significant news about what he's going to do next, if the nationals are going to be a thing. But it seems like he's going to skip this week and maybe a couple more weeks. And it's a bit unclear what's going to happen next. But what we know now for sure is that Herentals is not going to be happening for him, and that the national championships are also not really. They seem also quite unsure and probably not going to be a thing for him.
Unfortunate news, but health goes first, so let's wait and see what the news is on the rest of his season. But the comments of his dad weren't that optimistic, but we'll wait and see. He also said that the team Alpecin Phoenix will have the last word and they will handle it, and Adrie was just speculating from the outside, so let's wait and see on that one. Anyway, Issam, thank you for being here to talk about the Hexiacross in Gullegem.
No worries, thanks for having me.
We will be back tomorrow with a new podcast about the X2L Badkamers Trofee in Herentals. Fun parcours, so I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully you guys will all tune in to listen then again. Goodbye!